Thank you all for coming. So we're going to basically break down the health and safety into 5 places. Most of you have already received some of the training, like the employee code of conduct and the harassment in the workplace that was given from Andy when you first started. So you would have got that in day 1. If you didn't, well, I hope you've been good and anti-harassing this far. So we've been okay. No complaints. But if you didn't get it, let me know. We can always give you the training still so that you feel comfortable and confident in what to do in these situations. So the roles of the Health and Safety Committee is going to be one of the things we touch on: first aid and fire safety, incident, injury, and accident reporting, incident investigation, and then return to work. So we're going to go through all of those aspects. Obviously, first, we're going to start with what your role is in the company. So for the purpose of the presentation mainly, if you are an employee, if you do not fit in one of the other subcategories. So if you work for Sienci and you don't fall in them, you are considered an employee throughout the rest of this presentation. A joint health and safety committee member is either myself, John, or John Edwards. All of us around here. Cool. So we are the committee.
We all know what you look like. We don't.
John runs over.
It's for the video, dude.
It's for the video.
We know who you are.
We'll just little screenshot people's faces. So the committee is made up of an employee, a supervisor, and a manager. When I'm away, it's going to be Jason that's going to take over. But we are considered the joint health and safety committee members in this presentation. And then management is an employee that supervises another employee in their tasks and assists them in a teach, coach, train environment. So these would be our management positions that people reside in currently. So first is we're going to talk about first aid and fire safety. You guys might have noticed in the warehouse we have these now. Ooh. So where it is when you enter the building, at every exit, there is a highlighted area. In the highlighted area is where you're closest to your exit to leave the building safely in the event of a fire. So they're located at every single exit door. You can find them there. So that's what's new that's come in today. When it comes to fire safety, there's a few things that we're going to talk about. One, if there is a fire, where is our location for meetings? Our location is the Tim Hortons is down the street. It's 384 King Street North, literally 2 buildings that way. We're going to meet there, one, because it's warm, there's places to sit, and we can grab something to drink if we need to and make ourselves comfortable if we're going to be there for a longer period of time. The exception of everybody meeting there would be 2 management positions or a management and a joint health and safety committee member. So those 2 people's jobs are, one, to direct the authorities to the location, whether that's calling 911 and letting them know what happened, where it is, the location, and the other individual will be doing a head count to make sure that everybody's gotten out safely. It's a little bit difficult, seeing as some people do come in some days, some don't. We're going to try and get to the best of our ability, ensure that everybody leaves the building safely and that everyone doesn't return back into the building. So something to note is when you leave the building, do not grab anything on your way out. Try and make a beeline to the exit and leave. Do not stand at the door and be like, oh, I forgot my AirPods back at my workstation. I need to go back. Everything is replaceable. You are not. So please leave.
The surface table?
The surface Mike's like the surface plate. What are we going to do without the big rock? So some things to note is if you are at the scene of where a fire takes place, please let people know immediately by 1, sounding the alarm, or 2, ensuring that the smoke alarms are going off. If not, make a loud noise, yell, scream, get everybody out. Again, leave the building immediately. We meet at the Tim Hortons, and then 2 people from the management team are to, 1, alert the authorities, make sure that they are aware, And 2, make a head count, make sure that everybody is out and okay and no one returns into the building. So next is our first aid. So when it comes to first aid, anything that happens, please report it, record it, and put it down. So you will notice there is a bunch of these first aid boxes all around the building now. So inside the first aid boxes, there is this cool little form that John Edwards so kindly went around and put on for us. And the form, thank you, sir. The form has a couple of places. One, it has a place for the date, what item was used from the box, and whether it was reported in an injury. The reason for this is so that if there is a situation where, example, Patrick is hurt and he needs to get a first aid kit, there is not a situation where he goes to grab the first aid kit and there is nothing in there for him to use. So when we fill out the forms, these are evaluated every month with our health and safety inspection. We see what is missing from the box and we replenish the box based on what's needed. So the form in large looks like this. We can pass it around. Again, it's just the date, your name, what was taken from the box. So if you had a burn or something, you take out a burn gel, just write burn gel on there so that we can replenish them. These are also assessed at the end of the month when we do our inspection of the box to make sure that everything is adequately stocked. And yeah, so the first aid kits are used for everybody that can do it. That if they need help, they can ask a first aid safety trained person. We have 2 people that have recently been first aid certified. Do you want to raise your hands? And Mike. So, they have been first aid trained. So if you need anything or any assistance, please refer to one of them. They are here to help. Junior health and safety, joint health and safety committee member can also help you. But if it does require further first aid, these people are trained. First aid can be used in an emergency setting. Example, a large abrasion or cut. Please assess the situation before entering it. So a general rule of thumb is no fire, no wire, no gas, no glass. So let's say you walk into an area, you can't assess what exactly happened to the individual. They can't tell you what happened. Please use this as a way to try and decipher what happened to the individual, i.e. if they are unconscious, you walk in, there's no reason why they would be unconscious. We can assume it could be something like a gas. It could be electrocution. So try and make a safe assumption on your own on whether to proceed to go in and then help the individual. Always feel safe to contact someone else if you don't feel like you have adequate training or ability to go in. Is there a question? Nini, did you have a question?
Not a question, but I'm saying it could be medical too.
It could be medical, yeah. So just try and use your best judgment when going into these situations. And then there's also things that are considered static emergencies, which could be something like a splinter, that it might not be something imperative that you need to do right away, but it is something that needs to be taken care of, but it's not something that you're going to call 911 over. So always be sure to report any and all injuries that happen in the workplace, because it could be used later down the road. An example that we talked about in our joint health and safety committee meeting was if you have a splinter and it is a metal splinter, for example, if you were to pull it out and it had contacted with your bloodstream, you could need something like a shot, tetanus, etc. So these are things that, while it might not seem like an emergency, it's still good to record it in case further medical attention is needed for it. We need to have record of it, essentially. Next is who can help me. Of course, the 2 people that are certified. So if you need them, they are here to help. They will also be able to fill out the first aid injury and illness paper, which I am sending around now. So it looks like this. I will also share these with everyone. Pass it around.
Just the back. Cool.
The back of the paper. So you will be able to fill out these forms. We will have them accessible on our health and safety board as well. So if you need to grab them, you can grab one there. Fill it on your own. If you need help, anybody from the Joint Health and Safety or management should be able to help you with that. It's pretty easy. And it's just to keep record of what happened. What steps should I take when requiring first aid? So always notify somebody when you are injured, or if you are unable and you come across someone that is injured, to call 911 and notify people immediately. Have at least 2 people with the injured individual. One should be contacting the ambulance or medical assistance necessary. The other should stay with the injured individual. Be sure to ask what happened and get as many details as possible, because you never know what's going to happen. So try and get as much information from the individual. Should you require not to need ambulatory care, please contact a first aid certified employee to just look over, make sure everything is fine, and to provide with assistance in caring for both the injury as well as filling out the form and getting everything all copacetic. Always notify a joint health and safety committee member or management to have the injury recorded and or assessed. This process is to help us prevent it from further happening. So the best thing that we can do is to prevent it from happening in the future if it does so happen to you. So going on, what is in the box? So the first aid box, first aid kits are stocked with everything that we feel we should need in the workplace, including eye wash solutions, burns, bandages, tourniquets, etc. If you can't find something that you need in there, please let us know, because if you feel like it should be in there, then it is more than likely something that you worry, and we should have that available for all of our employees to feel safe in the workplace. Always record when an item is removed from the first aid kit, going back to that form that's on the inside. It's filling out that little short thing so that, one, we can make sure it's replenished. We don't want something to happen. Example, someone is bleeding and they need something like a tourniquet or a large bandage, gauze, and it's not available for them. So we don't want to be looking in an emergency for an item that should be stocked. They are checked monthly and then they are restocked. We also go through in our inspection. John does our Joint Health and Safety Committee inspections. So if there's ever something in that's not in the first aid kit that you think should be in there, you can notify him monthly if it just comes up out of the blue. He also assesses the first aid kits to make sure that everything is stocked for you. And we go over all of that. So for you online, this is the first aid kit usage report. So like I said, it's got the date, the item that you used, and then the name of who used it, and then if an incident report was filed. Pretty easy. This is the first aid injury, illness, and accident report. So this is what you'll be filling out if you get hurt in the workplace. And so when I'm saying in the workplace, it's also if you are working from home, your hours while you are at home, one, you are covered. So if something were to happen while you are during your work day at home, please fill out a form if you need to. We have a digital version of it, so I can send it to you if you need it. It's not a problem. It's also going to be accessible online. So the other thing is the form is also used for if you are in, anytime that somebody is in the warehouse. Example, if someone is visiting, we have visitors that come to see the long mail on occasion. If something were to happen to them, they also fill out the form. Just in case something were to happen, we need to have record of it and make sure that everything's good. What are you responsible for? So management is to make sure that they are following the standards for first aid and program for the program. Ensure resources are provided. So our promise to you is to make sure that all the resources for first aid and safety in the workplace are provided. We designate workers to inspect the first aid kits. This is John. Appropriate first aid treatment can be provided. We have our 2 first aid people. We are participating in accident investigation, which we're going to go over in just a little bit. And then we work with first aid responders in the event of an accident. Right.
There's somebody at the door.
First aid responders, which is Steph and Mike, they all provide treatment, triage employees if needed, and ensure that the first aid log is complete if they do end up helping someone. And then workers, which is the rest of you, you will work on obtaining first aid treatment if you need it. So if something were to happen, do not be scared to go to somebody and let them know. Report all injuries or illnesses that happen to your supervisor or manager. And that's pretty much it. So, accident injury.
John has a question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're also setting up a Band-Aid station over at the Health and Safety Board.
Yes. So we're going to have an area. So sometimes if you get like a little nick, a hangnail, something, and you need a Band-Aid, if it's while you're at work, we know that most people don't want to go into the first aid kit, take out a Band-Aid, and then record got a hangnail. Or maybe like there's like something you just like nicked a scab or something and it starts bleeding. We will have a box of Band-Aids attached to the first aid board. So if you need to grab a Band-Aid and it's not something that happened at work, it's just something that like you pulled, touched something.
I was gonna say again, this isn't a place where you don't report things as well. So it's like if you have a small injury, you should still report
Yeah.
that stuff. Don't just use the little Band-Aids and not report it. It's a more severe or something.
It's more so to keep the first aid kits stocked in the event of an emergency, so that like, let's say you do something every single, like you just keep like hitting this one cut that's never healing, that kind of stuff. And you're going through the Band-Aids in the first aid kit like crazy. And then something big happens where we need them. That's where this would come into play. Yes.
Do we have super glue? Not yet.
Super glue. We do have super glue.
Oh, we do. This is weird.
Yeah, because
We
can
carry
be
with it.
can be an actual Band-Aid at the same time.
Yeah, it feels the boys in here.
Yeah. Didn't know that?
Mhm.
It was made as a
Super
medical.
glue
It was
is
made
as
for
a
medical.
device.
Like even though we have.
But anyways,
So we be I mean, technically for like big wounds, I've seen it on.
we also have suture stickies in the first aid kits. They're like
So we'll have those, eh?
yeah, they are in there. So if it's something that like you need more than just the Band-Aid, something won't stop. Of course, if it's continually bleeding and not stopping, I recommend you see someone. But yeah. Any other questions about first aid kits other than the Band-Aid box that will be at the front? There'll also be forms there as well. So if it does happen where like you cut yourself and you need a Band-Aid, you don't want to get it from the first aid kit, you can grab it from the Band-Aid box. There's also an incident form there that we would encourage you to fill out. Cool. Incident, injury, and accident reporting. So again, this is anything that happens while you're in your workday on the property or in your homes if you are working from home. So reporting my injury or accident. 1, if an injury, illness, or accident is experienced, the worker should immediately report it to their manager. So that's step 1. 2, worker and the manager shall complete the injury, illness, or accident report form and forward a copy to Human Resources. The completed written form will be provided to the members of the Joint Health and Safety Committee. And it's just for being able to assess the situation, seeing if it could have been prevented and what we can do to further prevent it in the future. If the injury or illness requires outside medical attention, then we will be looking at the return to work portion of our first aid sort of thing. So return to work is when you hurt yourself at the workplace, require medical attention, and you need more treatment or are unable to work from it. So we're going to go over that in a little bit. Factors contributing to the injury, illness, or incident will be noted in the reporting form. And then again, as a health and safety committee, one second, as the health and safety committee, we're going to go over it, try and make sure that it doesn't happen again. So for example, if it's something like there are skids in the middle of the aisles, makes it unsafe for exiting, or if people trip over it and they end up like stubbing their toes, stuff like that. We're going to try and one, keep the aisles clean, which we already hopefully do. And then two, how can we prevent it in the future? Was it a lighting situation? Was the flooring wet? That kind of stuff. So it's that kind of investigation that we would be looking at. Yes, Ron.
Okay, so in my area, I'm constantly getting electrocuted. Only because I'm dealing with static and everything else in that area.
Rubber gloves.
Shocked or electrocuted?
Like,
There's a pretty significant difference between that.
Well, I think electrocution and shock is still the same, even though a
Okay,
shock
question.
can be deadly. But anyways, do we have to report that all the time, or are we just talking like when it's a serious problem?
I would report it. So the reason is because if it's happening continuously, it's like, what can we do to try and prevent it? And we can talk as a joint safety committee to try and see what we can do for like preventing the shock. Is it something with the machines? Is there something that we can wear like PPE that could be beneficial? Or is there something that we need to look at for like safely using certain objects?
Okay.
So I would definitely report it. If it's something especially that happens continually, it's definitely a report.
Alright.
But in there, I think even on here, it says electrocuted as an option. I'm pretty sure I put it down.
I didn't see it as I was asking.
You'll put down, right?
Pardon?
You'll put it, I guess I'll put it in.
Yeah, I was like, I believe my shock electrocution is in there. Loss of consciousness is, yeah, I think it falls. So yeah, we'll definitely, it's something that we can look into. So anything that happens that's like regular, definitely worth putting into so we can try and prevent it for the future. It could be something that we just need to like provide proper PPE for you.
Wait, so when these socks happened, were you wearing PPE?
Huh?
So were you wearing personal protecting equipment when shocks happened or no? No.
You say I look stressed?
Yeah.
I'm always
Oh.
stressed. It's my constant face. Who should be involved in reporting an injury? So the people that should be involved would be the injured individual, any witnesses. So anybody that has seen what happened should be filling out a witness report. Witness reports are literally just a paper where you fill out what you saw happened. Basically, it gets assessed as well with the report to see what happens moving forward. So whether we need to get proper PPE, whether we need to provide a safer machine, something's not working properly, we address that at our joint health and safety committee meeting, and then we try and prevent that. A manager should be contacted to fill out the incident injury report as well as the first aid report. And then lastly, human resources should also get a scan of the form to be able to share with WSIB should we need to. Yes, John.
Oh, you had a really great suggestion.
What's the
Oh,
suggestion?
it's just from like day-to-day work. I had this problem a lot in like working in a restaurant, and I know it's a little similar here, like fast-paced walking and stuff. I've had people like walk behind me, and I got startled, and I was like carrying, not like on purpose, like people trying to scare me. I don't think that, but there's people who walk behind me, and I'm like carrying something, lead screws, can't drop them, can't drop rails, stuff like that. I suggest saying like behind, just so like you're aware that they're there.
Yeah. It's always good. I know a lot of restaurants use that as
Yeah.
well. It's just letting the people know that where you are, so that like, I know a lot of people do wear their earbuds in and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
we
like,
do.
it's very easy to become startled when someone walks behind you and you just see something out of the corner of your eye. So yeah, just letting people know that you're behind them in things when they're like lifting or doing something. It's good to let them know. Good point, Nini. Incident investigation and analysis. So this is more for joint health and safety committee, but it is for everyone to understand that we do try and take safety seriously. When having our meetings, we will have meeting minutes book. So if you are curious as to what was talked about in the meeting, if there's any situations that you should be aware of or any changes, they will be in our meeting minutes. If in the Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting for investigating these situations, what we will be doing is going through like things that happened that required first aid, any incidents or illnesses that we should know about to provide proper safety equipment for you. And then lastly, obviously walking through the building, making sure fire extinguishers, first aid kits, and anything else that would be needed is provided to you. When do we investigate? So this is my long list of times when we will be investigating. It's not all mine. A lot of it's WSIB's list. So it's things like fatality, critical injuries, loss of time injuries, and not loss of time injuries. So this is when, like example, you were to sprain your arm from lifting and you lose work for a period of time. That is a loss of time injury. First aid, occupational illness, property damage, fires, explosion, near misses, workplace violence and harassment, sexual violence and harassment, vehicle damage, incidents resulting in potential for physical impact, injury, or trauma. I'm sure you all experience that daily. So, psychological.
Wait, about losing time, is that just like you want us to report it so you can take it off, or is that covered since it's an injury?
Oh, it's covered.
It's covered. We're going to go over that when the return to work stuff. It's all good. So yeah, so that's when we start to investigate, is when these kinds of things happen, which pretty much covers quite a bit of stuff. We want to make sure that we are going over to make sure that we have a safe place of work.
Sorry, is that
Is
ready to
someone
go? Because I looked at front, it's not there. The guy just came in.
Was this set ready for pickup?
He said that it was. There's nothing at the front. I can put it all together and give it to him.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm trying to speed my meeting. It's a busy day. I was like, wait, did my package come in? Did he say? I have a package coming in. Oh, local pickup. So why do we investigate? The purpose of this investigation is incident resulting in any of the previous reasons is to help prevent it from reoccurring. Our number one priority as your employer is to create a safe workplace and environment for employees to come to. So we want to make sure that when you come into work, you're as safe as possible and prevent as much as we can from happening. We hope that after an investigation has been done by the Joint Health and Safety Committee and select management, that we can find a way to improve the workplace safety. Investigations are not shared with personal information. So if there is an investigation that's put through, we don't include your name in it. So don't feel like because something happens, your name is going to be everywhere and people will be asking it about you. We encourage you to report anything that happens and know that it is kept confidential. Okay. Did you have a question, Ron?
Yeah, just out of curiosity of investigation. Say if someone has a injury prior to it and just all of a sudden it just flares up, like it's just a one-time flare-up thing. Does that still need to be investigated or no?
So it depends. If you're talking about something like example, you have a back problem, for example. So let's say like every day is usually pretty good, but then one day I'm like lifting something up and it just really flares up. I can't use my back.
The mic is off. Did you turn it off earlier?
I don't think so.
Press the button.
Did I press the
That's
button?
what they can hear you and they can see.
It's at the bottom.
Oh, the
It's
mic
at the
is
bottom. Just
at the bottom of
left.
in the red.
Press the red microphone.
Oh, that's this one.
That's Andy's.
Oh, that's mine.
This one is.
Oh.
Okay.
Can you hear me currently?
Oh, sorry.
They can
I
hear
thought
you.
the mic was laying on the computer. Okay. No,
Oh.
It was like your mic is off. Like, oh shit.
Andy's like, they can't hear you, and everybody on the thing is like,
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm on my own computer. Yeah. False alarm.
okay.
I'm not infallible, okay?
I was like, oh.
Yeah, this is getting cut out of the video.
Take him out back, guys. So Yeah, but if it's something like you have back problems and then like you come to work, you have a really bad flare up, I wouldn't report it as a new incident. I would still report it in the first aid. So like I would fill out a form just saying like this happens, and then there is a section that says like, is this a previous injury, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So you would fill out there that it is a previous injury, something like whatever is happening, just in case we do need it for WSIB for coverage for you or something like that when it comes to return to work programs.
Okay.
So I would
was a little
still,
curious on that because you mentioned that.
yeah, I would still record it just so that like the worst case scenario, we have it written down if we need it.
Okay.
So yeah. And then lastly is return to work. So the return to work program is through WSIB. So like I was just talking about, what happens is like, let's say Andy is back cutting rails like he does all the time. And so he's cutting rails and then he lifts up a rail and oh shoot, like he popped out his shoulder and now he's got a rotator cuff injury. Happens. Nini has, it's every day.
Yep.
So if this were to happen and it now inhibits his ability to work. So let's say the next day he comes into work, he can't lift anything. His left arm's really bad. One, he shouldn't report the injury when it first happens. Two, if it's something that inhibits his ability to go to work, then it's something that's considered a WSIB claim. So anything that is a loss of work, WSIB will pay out for you. Any medical attention that you need. So let's say he needs to go to physiotherapy now. It wouldn't go through your benefits. It would go through WSIB, and then your benefits would kick in afterwards. But the return to work program is through WSIB. It enables people to still be able to safely come back to their job after. So let's say he does 3 weeks of physiotherapy. Things are getting a lot better for Andy. He's like, yeah, you know, I can move my arm, not a whole lot on my left side, but my right side's still good. So then we can have him packing bags or something. So we modify the work for him to make him able to come back to work. It could be modifying the hours if he says, you know, it's really bad. And like when I sit up for long periods of time, they're shooting down my back. So it's like, okay, well, we can modify your hours. So we give him a shorter day and then WSIB would compensate for the rest. But that is what the return to work program is. And it's all through WSIB. There's more information. We have pamphlets at the front and I can send them all to you online, people. And it's basically just the program to know that if something were to happen to you at work, you are covered, and it's through WSIB, which is why we encourage so much that we take care of all the first aid, injury, and incident reporting. Because if there is no reports or no first aid, it's a little difficult to put through WSIB when it's 3 weeks later and we have no paperwork. So
does that mean I should, like, my thing happened on Monday?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do it.
John is going to sit with you after and go over it. So
John and Michael.
yeah. So basically, if anything happens in the workplace, please report it. It helps with investigation, anything that you would need for return to work in case it becomes something more serious. And it helps us with furthering the safety inside the building. Other than that, is there any questions? No questions. Nothing? We're all good? Cool. Awesome. Well, I will send a pizza recipe to all of you people online so that you have that to go to. But if there is no questions, that is it. Cool. So those papers, you all have papers in the Slack. It's got all of the training. If you can write down, if you can remember what training you got. So for example, if Andy did your employee code of conduct, etc., just put down Andy's name. But
when we
started doing that, everyone already filled it.
I have no papers. They're not in
They're in
there.
the binder. They're in a binder in the front. Yeah, I'll show you later.
Okay. So yeah, we've got them all. I'm going to look at possibly digitaling. Do we want to try and digitalize the form for them?
Yeah.
Okay. We will do a digital form. So I'm going to resend it for all you people that are online. It's basically a digital signature that you've received your training. The only additional spots that would be need to fill out would be for Steph and Michael, which have got first aid training. You would just fill out provided by Red Cross and then signatures there. But other than that, it just goes over the health and safety training we just did, the employee code of conduct, and the harassment in the workplace that was given at the beginning when you started. If you didn't get any of those, or if you're missing any training that you feel like you need, let me know.